Yeah, it's fun because when I was preparing this question, I read a short film from Medal of Honor has been awarded the nomination for the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
So it's like they're really, it's like movies are learning from games right now. Huh?
Yes, yeah, that you could say that, but that's the Oscars, man. Fuck the Oscars.
Are you ready for the roller coaster ride of your life? No.
Every time you talk to a developer or designer, it always goes back to people asking the question, is this fun? And I would say this, it's one of the questions we should ask. It's not the only question, because like I said, some of the most like great scenes in gaming hasn't been about fun. You should ask the question should be, does this mechanic fit for this scene? Now, it could be a mechanic that makes sense, that it's interesting, that reflects what the character is going through, that could be based that it should be fun, it should feel, you know, like very hard, it should feel very like terrifying. There's so many different aspects of it. We shouldn't always go back to the question of fun. Now, I'm not saying games should not be fun. Of course, some of them should be fun, but not that at the end of the day, the game should be fun. I think that's an old thing coming from the old design or perspective of game when looking at Super Mario and all that stuff. Like, yeah, as long as it is fun, yes. But it's definitely not about fun. I mean, you should ask this question. It's important because then you, I think, open yourself up to try adjusting mechanics to the story if you're making a narrative game. Like, okay, what kind of mechanics should we do here? What kind of scene how should this be played? You know what I mean? But fun is one of them if that's what you want to, you know, go for. But it's definitely not always about that. I just think it's healthy to question more of what you want. You know what I mean? But that's what you keep hearing all the time. Is it fun? Is it fun? I'm like, come on, man. It's not like when you play a narrative single player game, you're like this, you know, you're like into the mode or something. Well, it's very simple. Movies are a passive experience. Games are interactive, which makes I've done both now. I've done 6 feature films and 3 games. And it's quite clear that games are way harder to make because many reasons. One of them being that movies have had long time to learn on how to make a movie, both from a creative writing, production, everything. But games are slowly learning. So we can look at movies, how they create stories, but we shouldn't copy what they do. We should be inspired of it because we need to find our own way to tell stories in video gaming. The interactive aspect is at the end of the day, I believe, can have a stronger impact on people than the passive media like movies. But anyway, we need to focus like, how do we tell stories in gaming in an interactive way? And with the interactive, I don't mean I know a lot of people say choices is unique for gaming, but choices you can do in a Netflix series as well. Choices is part of it, but I do believe the interactivity of mechanics, how you control what you do, the pacing, how you play it, that is something that is super cool. And that is something that we're slowly finding in video game. We're not there yet, but slowly understanding like how can we tell a great story and actually play it. I mean, obviously it's a process, and this is one of the things I ask and say, games should not always be about fun. You know what I mean? Fun is one, but should be about something to keep on exploring how to tell great stories in video game in an interactive way. Because as long as you're in a passive mode in a game, then I think that you're closer to a movie experience. That is something that we really push for from A Way Out to It Takes Two, to make the gameplay more responsive, more like connect to the story and more reflective of what goes on in the story. You know what I mean? In A Way Out, we had sometimes passive modes where you kind of looked more than you played. So that's why this one we try to push it even further, you know?
Like there's this level where they're trying to go and hunt this elephant and they want to kill it because they want their daughter to cry.
Yeah. What did you think of that scene? It's a crazy scene.
That's crazy and made me feel a little bad.
But the one thing that worries me a little bit that is concerning is that when you have a Game Pass system, you must understand that the financial aspect of a big game has to work for it to function. So what worries me is that if you create a big AAA budget and you release it for Game Pass, I think that I'm not sure, but in the end of the day, you might not be able to, get it to work financially. You know what I mean? And that, in a sense, could affect the creative aspect of the game. So we go towards more a free-to-play system. You know what I mean? A free-to-play design. So you create games that are on Game Pass for free, but you have a huge amount of microtransaction. You create games that's almost going to be impossible to play without paying extra. And the problem I have is not paying extra. The problem I have is that when you design a game around that, you will get to a point where you see the mobile industry that's huge, that will get into the hardcore industry as well. That's what scares me, that it could affect the creative aspect of it. Right now, it's old games being released. It's like when Bethesda now releases the Dishonored 1, 2, blah, they've already done them. That's all. But when you have new games, how will they look? What would that mean? How much can they release? Because at the end of the day, however much Game Pass costs, it's not going to be more than $15 a month, let's say, or $10 a month. Now, if you break $10 into a year, that's $120. That's 2 AAA titles, you know what I mean? And you have to understand, these games cost so much money. And to get these back, you have to come up with systems to get this money back. And we already see, how much microtransaction is being incorporated in game, more and more. And we gamers have to accept it. We are going towards more mobile phone, which terrifies me a little bit, because when you are, adjusting the creative vision, then we have a problem. Then we have a big problem, I think. Yeah, but I don't know. It's too early to say. So I'm cautious now and looking at this closely, seeing how it develops. There are obviously some good things with this as well, obviously, but it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, I really agree. And I'm really interested in seeing how a big player like Bethesda will adapt its way.
It's going to be very interesting. Because the thing is, will Microsoft give them AAA budgets to make and release them as is? You know what I mean? Will you release them like this? I'm not sure, man. It's going to be very interesting. Yeah,
because when you acquire a little studio, it's more, it's easier to say, okay, you have to adjust the way you make games tailored on Game Pass. So.
Yeah. Look, the actual fact right now, if we're looking at the actual economy numbers of A Way Out, when it is sold to people or when it is on the EA originals, there's a huge amount of difference in the income for the developer. Huge amount. So it's really a huge difference. So it's really interesting what's going to happen in the future. Whatever acquisition would happen ever is not ever going to interfere in the creative. If it does, I don't care what money they give me. That's not going to happen at all. That's how I work. Now, what I think about acquisitions in general, I think could be good. But at the end of the day, I do believe competition is nice. So at the end of the day, I hope that not too many big companies buy, because the actual fact is like this. The bigger company, the bigger shareholders, the bigger responsibility, the more chance of taking stupid decisions. That is something you can never deny that will happen if you're a big company. It will always be like this if you're a big company. So it might be a problem. There's also benefits as well, because you have more economical freedom, but there's definitely bad sides to it as well. So I hope it's at some points it balances out,
Will you ever consider a single player game? As my last question, it's a desire.
I would never say no, but why not? Who knows in the future what will happen? But it will definitely look very different from your normal single player game, that's for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Enjoy the game.